Hello, everyone, and welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we will learn how to leverage ChatGPT to perform code debugging. This lesson is one of my favorites because it's going to truly show you how useful that technology is and how powerful it is as well. You can basically use it to discover what's wrong with your code. You can also use it to fix your code as well for you. So let me show you an example. Let's assume that we have a Python function that adds two numbers together. It's a pretty simple one. And basically, what I'm going to say here, I'm going to say what is wrong with this Python function in one sentence. So basically, if you are familiar with Python, you would notice that here I don't have a colon. This is a colon here missing in the definition of that Python. And that's why you are basically seeing here an error message. So if you press enter, here we go. Basically, going to tell you, well, the function is missing a colon in the function header. So you can basically just simply say, can you fix this function for me? And here we go. Pretty incredible. So I'm going to tell you, well, here is the correct function. So simply here, it added the colon at the end. And also you will notice that there is an indentation here or white space that has been added as well. And that's simply a proper function. You can just go ahead, copy that code, and you can simply use it in your code. Okay, next. What if I, for example, was running a code in a Jupyter notebook and maybe I got an error message? So for example, here, all I could do is I can say, well, I got this error message. Let me remove the number here. So I got this error message when I run my Python code, and this is simply the error message that I got, for example. And I just want to know what's wrong with it. So if you press enter, it's going to tell you, well, this error message indicates that there is a syntax error. And basically the reason is because my sum at the end is missing a colon at the end as part of the definition of that function. And here it's also showing you the fix to that function as well. And it's going to tell you, make sure to include a colon after the function parameters and to indent the code as well inside the function body. Pretty amazing. Okay. All right, so what if you maybe obtained another error, for example, that is related to the previous function? For example, let's assume that you tried to call the function, which is my sum function, but here what you did is that instead of sending two arguments, basically this function is expecting x and y, here you just say call my sum, which is that function, which is my sum here, and you just sent it one argument only, which is just 10. And simply, if you do that, you will get this error message. And let's go ahead and test it out. Basically, I'm saying, what is wrong with that Python code? And here, I'm just copying the exact same code that I got when I ran or tried to run this line of code. Here we go. This is going to tell you, well, the error message here suggests that my sum function was called with one only argument instead of the expected two arguments. And here is the example of how to fix that code. Here is going to tell you, well, to call that function, you need to send it actually two arguments. These are going to be 10 and 20. And what you notice here is that ChatGPT actually used one of the numbers that we already included as part of our error message. It's actually pretty smart. So we're going to say 10 here. And then it basically added an additional parameter, which is 20. And it's going to tell you, make sure to provide both x and y arguments to the mySum function when you call it. Okay, pretty incredible because, again, first, the explanation is on point. It's described in plain English with examples along with the correct code as well. Okay. So the next question is, let's assume that I would like to ask ChatGPT, okay, which is, why is my loop not executing as many times as expected? So, well, here we go. There could be several reasons why the loop or for loop or while loop is not executing as expected. Telling you, well, the loop condition is not maybe written correctly. The loop is exiting early, for example. The loop is not actually being executed, or maybe the loop variable is not being updated correctly. Okay, so these are various reasons. Another example, well, can you maybe identify any logic errors in my code? So I can just say that. So if I say, can you identify any logic error in my code? And he's going to tell you, well, it's difficult to identify the logic code, basically in the because without seeing the code, but it's going to show you basically what are the key, I would say, logic errors that are available out there. These are off by one errors, or maybe incorrect conditionals, for example. Maybe there is division by zero that might cause some issues, or incorrect variable scope. Okay. Another, for example, question that you can ask ChatGPT is, well, can you maybe tell me what are the 10 common programming errors for maybe new Python programmers. So that basically can show you the 10 programming errors. And one of them is first syntax error, such as missing a colon at the end of a Python function, as an example. We have also indentation errors, and these are the first two errors that we actually encountered before. You also have name error. You're referencing a variable or a function, basically that hasn't been defined before. We also have type error as well. Maybe you have, for example, infinite loops. You are stuck in an infinite loop that doesn't exit. You can also have maybe division by 0 as well, or maybe incorrect file handling and inefficient code. Again, pretty amazing. So what I could do as well is I can say maybe, okay, what about maybe JavaScript, for example? So let's say I would like to know what issues are available in, let's say, JavaScript. So can I tell you one? Certainly. One of them is syntax error, undefined variables, null or undefined errors, for example, here. You can also see infinite loops, division by 0. It's pretty much common as well across both languages. All right, next, let me show you a little bit of an advanced example. And basically here I have a Jupyter notebook that solves regression type problems in data science. And basically without going through all the details, I just want to give you from a very high level what that function, what that code does first. And I'm going to show you where I introduced an error. And I want to see if ChatGPT is able to detect that issue for us and even fix the code, which is, again, when I saw this, it was pretty much like mind-blowing for me. So for example, first, I'm going to import all our key libraries. These are Seaborn, Pandas, Matplotlib, NumPy. And then here we used Pandas to read our data, the CSV file, which is university admission data. And then we explored all the different columns here. We checked out the shape as well. And then we confirmed if we have missing values in my data or not. Next, basically, I'm going to perform EDA, or exploratory data analysis and visualization. So here we're going to use or plot histograms, and then afterwards here I just plotted scatter plots to visualize the data. No issues, no problems here so far. And then what I've done here is simply I split the data to inputs and outputs. The inputs, we're going to call them X. The output, and that is going to be my target variable that I'm trying to predict, which is simply the chances of admission here, which is Y. And basically what I've done here is, as part of this practice opportunity, basically I generally ask students to split the data into training and testing. So here we are missing an actual part of the code, which is critical because I'm going to use the XTrain and XTest to train the model and test the model afterwards. So basically here, without this section, there is an issue here, there is an error or problem. There is a missing lines of code here that students need to fill. And basically here I have the XTrain. Here I'm basically using XGBoost regressor to train my model. And I need XTrain here to train the model. And then I need here to test the model with XTest, but I don't have that. What I've done is I simply copied that code here, okay, without, of course, a solution at the end. And I just came back and I just would like to see if ChatGPT was able to basically detect the error for us. And let's go ahead and copy the code. So here I'm going to say Control V. So this is, again, the exact same code that I've got here, okay, that I showed you in the Jupyter notebook. So here again, I'm reading my data, I'm checking it out. And the part here is I have X and Y, and I do not have XTrain and YTrain. I just went ahead and trained the model, assuming that I know XTrain and YTrain. So let's go ahead and test it out and see if it detected it. And here we go. The code is missing the definition of XTrain and XTest and YTest variables as well. And assuming that these variables have been defined and split the data correctly, and here we go. What you see is, which is pretty, again, amazing. You will find that simply here, it also already detected that I need to perform train test split here to split my data, which is X and Y, to simply XTrain, XTest, YTrain, and YTest, which is, again, kind of mind-blowing for me, because right now you can simply use ChatGPT to detect the error messages for you. You can also use it to fix the code as well. And that's it. That's simply all I have for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next lesson.